Welcome back to The Jump. George Sedano in for Rachel Nichols here with Chris Bosh, Kendrik Perkins, and Brian Windhorst. Five-time Lakers champion Magic Johnson was on First Take yesterday, and let's just say he's confident in next year's team. Take a listen.
Well, what's on my mind is the fact that LeBron James proved again why he is the greatest basketball player in the world. He proved again why he should have been named the most valuable player of the NBA. And then second, Anthony Davis, with the regular season that he put together, with the playoff run that he had during this incredible playoff bubble season, he proved that he was the second best player in the NBA this season. So watch out next season. I'm predicting right here, right now, the Lakers going to repeat.
Chris, we'll start with you. Is this just the beginning for LeBron, AD, and the Lakers?
I think so. I mean, you know, the intent is to make a run at multiple championships. Of course, they still have to re-sign Anthony Davis with free agency coming up for him. But I think that was always the thing with LeBron. He went there to win multiple championships. For one, you don't go to Los Angeles just to play a season and finish. You know, you better get some hardware and bring it back home. There's always pressure with that, but that's, you know, what they've established over their great tenure as an organization. And Magic's right. I mean, they're always going to have, if you have two of the top five players or top two players in the league, you're always going to have a chance. So, I mean, you know, led by, you know, Rob Pelinka in the boardroom, I mean, they're always going to be aggressive. They're always going to be making moves, and they're there to win. So we see how good they can be. They're going to have to get better in order to repeat. So we'll pay attention to what they do in the offseason.
Yeah, and look, but listen, we all know what LeBron James is going to do. We all witnessed what he's done over the last 17 years as far as being the greatest player to ever walk the planet Earth. But now you have Anthony Davis, who is battle-tested, who just dominated the postseason. I mean, everybody in front of him was Harris Fried Chicken. And I say Harris Fried Chicken because he's from the Chi-Town. I know he loved that place. But everybody they put in front of Anthony Davis, he demoralized them. And now he's battle-tested. And going into next season with the confidence that you're going to give this guy who's already a generational talent, who's already one of one, it's going to be a problem for the entire NBA, in my opinion. And when I'm looking at Anthony Davis, not only do I believe that the Lakers are going to win a championship again next year and repeat, but I strongly believe that Anthony Davis is going to win the MVP next year.
Well, it's not an outrageous thing to say on that one, Perk. I haven't seen a Laker guarantee a repeat so fast since Pat Riley back in the 80s. So I was pretty impressed with Magic going there. I will say this, that I always felt that the Lakers would be better in year two than year one. I mean, this was certainly the case with Chris Bosh when they were there with the Heat. They got better in year two. In Cleveland, he won the championship in year two. And I sort of look at this as LeBron's injury. So give them another transaction cycle to add another role player or two. Guys are going to want to play there. I think their team will be better. But I do have to point this out. The Golden State Warriors, in theory, will be back. The Brooklyn Nets will get Durant and Kyrie Irving. In theory, I have no idea what next season is going to look like, but in theory, the field should get a little bit more competitive.
Chris, let me ask you this. What kind of players do you think that they should add? Like, what type of players should they add? Should they add more shooting? Should they add more defense? What do you think they should add?
Well, I mean, they're always going to have a defensive first mentality with Vogel as the head coach and, you know, of course, the great coaching staff that they have. I think shooting is always going to be an important thing for them. That was one of their perceived weaknesses from this past season and postseason. You can always get better at shooting, but really just picking those pieces that really complement AD and Bron. Of course, with Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee coming up, you know, it makes it a little difficult with the center position, but I'm sure they'll be able to figure some things out with more size and more shooting and more defense and really just continuing to surround AD and LeBron. I mean, hey, look, at the end of the day, they're great players, so it's a great problem to have, and you'll be able to probably get somebody and they'll tremendously get better as soon as they show up to camp.
Speaking of great players and great people, Chris Bosh, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, guys.
All right, take care, Chris. All right, coming up next. There we go. The kids got in there. There we go. We love it.
Appreciate it, guys.
A hot spot during a pandemic and having 0 cases. You talk about guys going down there and representing for us in social justice, coming together as a whole. We had a boycott for a couple games, and guys really put their foot down and held their owners' feet to the fire. We're talking about, in my opinion, one of the hardest championships in NBA history. Guys playing without fans, guys removed away from their families in an isolated area, guys having multiple 50-point nights. I mean, it was just something beautiful to watch for us, the NBA. Job well done by Adam Silver, and no one will ever forget the 2020 NBA bubble. That's how I look at it. It was just phenomenal. They pulled it off. They got some things accomplished while being down there for us outside of the court. And here we are. We crowned the Los Angeles Lakers, and LeBron James took home his 4th title, 3rd Finals MVP. So it's so much that it's not just one thing, George. It's a lot of things that makes up this 2020 season.
Well, I'll remember this season through Kendrik Perkins' Twitter account, because that was one of the most interesting things we've had over the last 12 months. But in all seriousness, George, carrying on, I could say, this is a purple and gold season to me. I remember opening night against the Clippers. I remember Christmas Day against the Clippers. Unfortunately, the sight of those flowers lining Chick Hearn Boulevard after Kobe's terrible, tragic death piled up outside the Staples Center, piled up all around our facilities in Los Angeles. And then, of course, the playoff run, where the Lakers were the story from the start, where they almost walked away at one point. And then, of course, this last couple of weeks where they played the top of their game. LeBron James and Anthony Davis were at the top of their game. Their role players were at the top of their game. Frank Vogel made great decisions. This was a Lakers season. It was Lakers 2020, and it's only fitting that they'll have rings on that say 2020 forever.
Yeah, no question about it. I think you guys made some excellent points from the league and Adam Silver and everything that they were able to accomplish and make sure everything got done the way it needed to get done, from the social justice causes to obviously COVID. But to your point, Brian, this on the floor was about the Lakers. You know what I'm saying? Like, you think about it, it's about a coronation of LeBron James, his continued excellence at this age, and really choosing the right teammate in Anthony Davis, a guy who I think really embodies all of the characteristics of some of LeBron's great teammates, and it's why he's such a perfect fit. But also this aspect of it. People elevated their games in the bubble. Jimmy Butler, who we saw obviously in that great montage, and the Heat players, they exceeded expectations. Coach Eric Spoelstra obviously continues to show why he may be the best coach in the league. And a team like Denver, Jamal Murray elevated himself. Jokic, what is the future of Michael Porter Jr., right? And how he helps elevate that team. I think there are a lot of great things you can take away off the court and certainly on the court. But coming up next, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to get you to the news, man. The latest on the Rockets coaching search. We'll find out what's next with our latest installment of Where in the World is Windy? So get ready, Brian. Stick around. You're watching. Let's get caught up on the latest with another installment of our favorite game, Where in the World is Windy? Brian Windhorst, where the heck are you at?
Mission Control, Houston, Texas. Got down here just during the break. Got great speed. A big week right now for the Rockets. They are holding interviews in person. We had Ty Lue interview earlier this week. It has been reported that Jeff Van Gundy will also interview this week now that he's out of the bubble doing work for ESPN and ABC in Orlando. And when you talk to folks around the league, while there are other candidates here, people also believe that Kenny Atkinson is a candidate. Now, Kenny Atkinson and Jeff Van Gundy have worked for Daryl Morey, the general manager, as coaches for Rockets before. So keep an eye on that, whether familiarity plays out an issue if Ty Lue goes elsewhere.
Perk, let me ask you, of those three candidates there, Atkinson, Lue, and Jeff Van Gundy, right? All coaches who have accomplished things at different levels. Jeff coached a Knicks team to the finals. Ty Lue won a championship with LeBron. Kenny Atkinson, a young coach, but certainly has had some success as a young coach. But familiarity, as Brian said, with the organization. Who's the best fit for that particular roster, that particular owner, and that particular general manager?
Well, I love Jeff Van Gundy and I love Kenny Atkinson. But when you look at the Rockets, their window is about 2 to 3 years. No way that they're trading James Harden, and there's no way that they're trading Russell Westbrook. So here it is. You have 2 former MVPs that are still in their prime. And you need a guy that's going to come in there that they're going to respect and also be able to relate to, and that's Ty Lue. When you look at Ty Lue's resume and look at the history, not only of the guys that he's coached, and LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Love, but when you go back and look at the guys that he played with, Michael Jordan, Tracy McGrady, Kobe, Shaq, he was coached under Phil Jackson, under Doc Rivers. One thing about Ty Lue is that he knows how to micromanage egos, and that's what the Rockets need. They need somebody that's going to go in there and treat Russ like the superstar he is so that you could get the best version of Russell Westbrook while also treating James Harden the same way and still getting that leading scorer in the league to produce at a high level, especially in the playoffs. So the guy that's for the job, that's the right fit, the perfect marriage, in my opinion, is Ty Lue. He's a stud. His resume speaks for itself. He should have been on somebody's roster a long time ago as a head coach, but I think this is the perfect fit. It's not la-la land, but Houston is a pretty good place to live in.
And as you know, Perk, before we move on to Bryant again, look, Ty Lue is not afraid to get in guys' faces, right? Like he certainly did that with the Stars when you were in Cleveland. He wasn't afraid of any of that.
No, not at all. And he challenged Braun. Braun would say that to this day. He challenged Braun. It wasn't, I get tired of the narrative of people always saying, oh, the only reason he won is because he had LeBron James and that was LeBron James' team. But if you're not in that locker room, then you can't really say anything, because I was there for 2 years. I witnessed Ty Lue control practice. I witnessed him control the film room. So he is a guy that knows how to balance the two. He gets in his face, but he also lets you be able to have a voice. And I think that's what they need, the Rockets need.
All right, so where in the world is Windy? Brian, where are you now?
I'm at the Honey Center, which usually has a different connotation, George, but that is the name of the LA Clippers practice facility. And here I am outside watching for any candidates to go in or out. The Clippers have been active. They have interviewed Tyronn Lue in person. They have interviewed Mike Brown in person. They have interviewed Darvin Ham in person. Mike Brown and Darvin Ham, two of the more highly profile assistants out there in the league. And there is an expectation that Jeff Van Gundy could also interview with the Clippers in the coming days. Ty Lue, as Perk has just talked about for many reasons, including familiarity with these players, is believed to be the leading candidate here. But the Clippers are being thorough in this process. They're also keeping their cards close to the vest. There's not a lot of information leaking out right now, but people do believe Ty Lue and Jeff Van Gundy are the leading candidates for this job.
Perk, let me ask you about that. With Ty Lue and Jeff Van Gundy being the leading candidates there, as Brian reported in Where in the World is Windy, I think that if you're going to let go of Doc Rivers, don't you have to go a different direction there? Wouldn't it feel weird if they went with one of his lead assistant, basically? How do you feel about this particular job and the candidates?
Well, it's kind of strange. I mean, you would think that, they will go in the different directions, but to me, this didn't seem like it came from the top. This seemed like this had a lot of player involvement as far as with Doc Rivers being fired, and that guys want Ty Lue to be the coach. But this goes to a testimony of Ty Lue loyalty to Doc Rivers. Not saying that he won't take the Clippers job, but it's still in his eyes, he's going to search the market and see what else is out there, because he is a loyal guy to Doc, and I know Doc probably didn't gave him his blessings to take the job, but it's still, Ty Lue is that type of guy where he want to see what else is out there. And then I wouldn't be surprised if the Houston Rockets deal don't work out, he will take the Clippers job. But it just, it's kind of crazy. I think the Clippers really dropped the ball on letting Doc Rivers go without having a solidified backup plan. So that's just my opinion about them. And, hey, that's why they're in the mess that they is in today.
Brian, let me ask you about that situation, right? Would it be strange if an assistant took over in this spot, someone who was that close to Doc, because they wanted to clearly go in a different direction, it seemed like. And, of course, what is Sam Cassell's role in this? Will he be interviewed? Is he part of the process?
And you know what?
Well,
that's crazy to ask.
Sorry, Perk, that was for Windy.
I don't think the Clippers had a total plan here, because I don't think they were expecting to lose in the second round and firing Doc Rivers. I will say that it'll be interesting to see where the Doc Rivers-Ty Lue relationship is at the other end of this, because especially if Ty Lue replaces Doc, that can be prickly, I can tell you. And then Ty Lue was extremely interested in the Philadelphia 76ers coaching job that Doc Rivers sort of swooped in and took. And that just makes it complicated. And I do think Sam Cassell is on the list, but I think in this hire, and because I think Darvin Ham, who I mentioned earlier, is an excellent coach. You saw what Taylor Jenkins was able to do when he went to Memphis, coming off that Milwaukee staff last season. Darvin Ham has got that reputation out there in the league, the next big assistant to get a job. But it's a big ask to ask someone to take over the pressure who's never been a head coach before, and I think that puts Cassell and anybody who comes into this job fresh a little bit difficult. That's why Ty Lue and Jeff Van Gundy are at the top of the list right now.
Perk, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Sam Cassell is deserving of a job, and I think he will fit right in with the Clippers. A lot of the guys on the rosters love Sam Cassell. They can relate to him. They look up to him. And I think he's deserving of a job. And if it's not the Clippers, I think somewhere else. I think a job like the Oklahoma City Thunder would be a perfect fit for Sam. But I tell you one thing, George, the Clippers, they have to be very, very careful on who they hire, because, their team is championship or bust. Like, let's cut out all the nonsense. Their championship or bust. So whatever coach that they do hire, they got to make sure that it's the right coach that's going to lead them to a championship, because, those guys, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Lou Will, all those guys are not getting younger. They're getting older. They're 30 plus. So they have to be very careful in who they hire at their position.
Well, and to that point, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard also can opt out of their deals after next season, too. So something to keep an eye on in regards to that. All right, where in the world is Windy? Brian, where are you now?
Back on Bourbon Street here in New Orleans. This, to me, is the most fascinating job out there with Zion Williamson. And the fact that, yes, here we go again, Ty Lue is at the top of their list. Now, David Griffin, the general manager, and Ty Lue won a title together in Cleveland. And, there's a lot of reasons why Ty Lue and Zion Williamson would be an interesting match. But it's not clear where Ty Lue is prioritizing this job right now. As I mentioned, he interviewed with Philadelphia, he interviewed with Houston, he interviewed with the Clippers in person. To my knowledge, an interview in person has not happened in New Orleans yet, which leaves them sort of waiting to see what Ty Lue does. Two other names to watch here. One, an assistant coach with the Dallas Mavericks, Jamal Mosley, who has had a lot of high regards in the league and is probably going to get a job in the short-term future. He is on the list. And also, sort of sneaky, and a guy who I believe will get an in-person interview soon, Stan Van Gundy is on the list. JJ Redick is on this roster, who Stan coached in Orlando. Now, I don't know where he ranks on the list, but I do know Stan Van Gundy is on the Pelicans list. We'll see how things develop in New Orleans as they wait on Ty Lue.
Wow. Well, let me follow up with that, Brian, because you did mention an assistant. You mentioned some established coaches there. Do we know what the timeline is for New Orleans and what their expectations are and how that may play a factor here?
Well, they are doing in-person interviews this week, but I have to just be honest with you. I mean, they're waiting on Ty Lue. For them to be able to hire Tyronn Lue, a guy who Houston, L.A., even Brooklyn, potentially, he was on their list before they settled on Steve Nash. Philadelphia, to be able to hire a championship coach who has excellent relationships with veteran players and has shown he can work with young guys, that would be a home run hire for them. And frankly, they're just going to have to wait because they're not in pole position here. But David Griffin has known for a long time that Ty Lue may be a little bit of a long shot, and they have done their ground game. They have done a bunch of other interviews with other guys out there. One other name I'll throw out there, Will Weaver, who you may not have heard of. He was coaching last year in Australia, but has been a coach in the G League, a highly regarded coach. Also is potentially a candidate in Oklahoma City. That's a name that they've looked at who either as a top lead assistant or as a head coach. So David Griffin is, he's looked at Darvin Ham, he's looked at David Vanterpool. There's a lot of guys that they've looked at, but they're going to have to wait for Ty Lue to go through their full process.
Wow, that's going to be an interesting search for sure. All right, that was fun. Brian is now heading back to the coach. Bosh, thanks for joining us, Chris.
Oh, man, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
We gave you that great intro, and make sure we respect the man who won 2 titles down there in Miami, of course. And speaking of Miami, the 5th-seeded Miami Heat, Chris, had an incredible postseason run. They were the lowest-seeded team to make the finals in over 20 years, despite coming up short against your former teammate, LeBron James. So, Chris, I'll ask you this. How proud are you of what the Heat accomplished this particular season?
Oh, I mean, really proud. You can't even put it into words, really. Nobody expected them to achieve and had the season that they had. They're always having the championship mind frame, no matter who's in the gym. They're always coming into work, day in and day out, always teaching that belief system. And, of course, working hard and working together. And it's good to see those things pay off. And we always hear guys talk about the confidence and say how they're a championship organization. I think year after year, the Heat prove it. Pat Riley, he's always going to have that strong message of team first basketball, family first organization, and then it trickles down from there. And, Spo just keeps getting better and better. And, they draft well. Jimmy Butler had an incredible run in the bubble. And I know that they'll be able to kind of build from here and see where it goes.
Well, CB, look, I'm happy that you're on, man. My brother from Texas. I know we had our battles in high school, had our battles in the finals, but I got a problem. Because you said nobody expected the Miami Heat to be where they were this year. And me and George were 2 people that had them coming out of the East. When you look at them, we both was telling everybody about them goons from Dade County. You didn't hear us preaching about that? We just said that they wasn't going to win in the finals, but we definitely had them beating Milwaukee and the Boston Celtics.
Man, homeschool, bro.
To that point, all right, but to that point,
it's been super busy, man. They call me Principal Bosh around here, so it gets super busy with homework. But I hate I missed it, bro. But I appreciate that, man. Thanks for sticking up for the guys, man.
You have to. I mean, when you look at this Miami Heat culture, I think Erik Spoelstra is the best coach in today's game. I look at Jimmy Butler. He took a leap forward. We always knew he was a star. But the way that he performed in the finals, we finally could put that super behind the star because he was a superstar in those finals. And then on the verge with Tyler Hero and Bam out of the Bayou, I think the sky's the limit. I'm looking at this Heat team, and I believe them when they say they're going to run it back and they have dreams on coming and they have plans on coming out of the East and winning the championship. You could tell during Erik Spoelstra post-game interview after they lost, he was in tears. They didn't want to just get to the finals. They really believed that they should have won the championship. And I'm looking at this Heat team, and I'm like, they're only one piece away, maybe one piece. I don't know how the series would have turned out if Goran Dragic would have played, but I'm looking at their core. I'm looking at their culture. They're well coached. Jimmy Butler, Bam, Goran Dragic, Tyler Hero, and I see them coming back out of the East next year.
Look, I'm going to side a little bit here with Principal Bosh because while you were right, Perk.
I just like the where they sit. And really it's just about coming to compete every day, about coming to be professional every day, the work that you put in every day to get to where you want to go. First you have to visualize things. And, to be quite frank, it's all about championships. You see Erik Spoelstra being emotional after the post game. That's because he worked his tail off, preparing. You want it. You care so much. And to get all the way there and come up short, it hurts every time. I don't care who you are. I don't care how tough you are. If you get there with a group of guys and you get to the championship, you expect to win. So, just really with that mentality, having that attitude, but being realistic about it and going and getting the players that match, the intensity that you need to bring, getting those confident players like Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo and through the draft, to be able to build around. And I got to shout out to my guy, Bam. He had a phenomenal season and playoffs. And, just to see a fellow big carry on that Miami Heat tradition of great bigs, he's got a very bright future, like you were saying, Big Perk. And, I got to be honest with you, seeing how they can continue to build, knowing that they can get better, I think that's very exciting for the years to come.
Chris, you mentioned about building. 10 years ago, you were a free agent, and at that time, you left the Toronto Raptors to join the Miami Heat via sign and trade with Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra, and that whole front office still basically intact. They've added one of your teammates, Shane Battier, basically. Many people think Miami will be a free agent destination, especially in the offseason of 2021 when guys like Giannis could be available, Kawhi, Paul George, Victor Oladipo. It goes on and on and on. Do you see the Heat as a desirable free agent destination?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If I were a free agent, that's where I would try to go. It's not only the city. We could talk about how great the city of Miami is, which is great. Great community, full of good people and, other things that you might like to do if you really like the nightlife. But more importantly, it's the organization. Like I said before, it's all about championships. So you're not going down there just to get some sun. It's a perk, but you're coming there to work. You're coming there to, work with great teammates, learn about teamwork, and be professional and believe and make it happen. So, with that said, I think it will always be a free agent destination, but it's a little more attractive when you have cap flexibility like they're going to have in the next couple of years. So we'll really see what happens as, the free agent pool gets closer. I think they'll be able to make some moves, continue to draft well, and continue to put a strong team together, because that's what it's about. You just need a good team to have a shot.
Yeah, there hasn't been a big free agent in the last 25 years that Pat Riley hasn't wanted to get. So, of course, they're going to go after those guys. But a big thing to watch is what happens with Bam Adebayo. Now, Bam has the option of signing a huge extension this offseason. He is going to be a max player. Or he can do what numerous players have done over the last 5-6 years and wait and push it back. And if he waits and push it back to sign the following year, then it gives the Heat so much more cap flexibility. And it's interesting to point out that Bam and Giannis Antetokounmpo have the same agent. Doesn't mean they'll make the same choices, but they have the same agent. If neither of them sign extensions this offseason, which they will both be presented with, watch out for the Miami Heat, because it's an indication of what the possibility is.
Right, and I get what you're saying, Wendy, and I think Miami is an attractive place to play. You just look at their culture, you look at Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra, and what they developed down there, and they are all about championships. Let alone you could get down there and wiggle your toes in the sand a little bit when you need some daylight, right? But when I look at Bam, to me, he's one of the top 3 bigs in the league, right behind Anthony Davis and Jokic, what he's able to bring to the basketball court. And if I'm Bam, this is his first big deal that he's about to sign. It's kind of hard for him to push or pass on it this off season, because my grandpa always used to tell me, don't pass up some for sure trying to get some more. And the thing is that on your big deal, you want to have that security blanket. You want to secure your future, and I get it, but and I don't mean to bring this up like in this instance, but it is what it is. You don't want to have a Dak Prescott situation where, he's, negotiating a contract and God forbid you get injured. So when you have that money on the table, in my opinion, I always tell the young guys, go get your lettuce.
Well, it'll be interesting.
NBA champion once again.
Jeff Zilgit.
LeBron, 3 seasons ago, after you beat Toronto, you told Cleveland.com that you didn't have anything left to prove, or you asked what you had left to prove. And I wanted to know if that's changed over the past 3 years, did you feel you had something to prove, and why is this one so important for you?
I think personally, thinking I had something to prove fuels me and fueled me over these last year and a half since my injury. It fueled me because no matter what I've done in my career to this point, there's still a little rumblings of doubt or, comparing me to, the history of the game and has he done this, has he done that? Having that in my head, having it in my mind, saying to myself, why not still have something to prove? I think it fuels me.
All right, David Madden.
LeBron, all the circumstances surrounding this one, being in Orlando, having 4.5-month hiatus, away from family, everything going on in the country, how does that add context to this fourth ring versus the other three?
I think they're all special in their own right. They all have their obstacles, things that went on throughout the course of the year, both on and off the floor. But one is not less than the other. Because when you're able to put yourself in this position to be able to win a championship, the first thing you start to think about is how much work you've put in over the course of the year. How much you've sacrificed, how much you dedicated to the game and to your craft. That's always been the most fulfilling thing for me, besides seeing my teammates as happy as they are, is being able to know that you could put the work in, literally trust the process, live up the process, and then see the results. And I think not only from a basketball player, but from everybody, whatever craft, whatever work space you're in, to be able to put the work in and live along the process and build along the process and then be able to see the results, I think we all live for that moment.
Okay, we're gonna go Michael.
Okay. It's gonna be everybody tonight.
LeBron, could you sense that with the mental wear of the bubble that it was getting to other teams? And in the last few days, was there kind of a weird feeling of we're reaching, not just possibly winning a championship, but reaching the end of this journey? Like, did that feel different even than the other title runs?
To answer your first question, with so much going on inside the bubble and everything, and us, going into unknown, it's kind of hard for me personally. And once I got inside here, saying, okay, this is my mission. I want to win a championship since I'm here. It was hard for me to kind of focus on other teams and what other players were feeling. I didn't engage in that. I didn't look for it. I wanted to keep my energy in the right space. And over the last couple of days, you definitely thought about it. You thought about just being here, how successful it is. And I commend Adam Silver and the NBA, and Michelle Robert, Chris Paul over at the NBPA, and so many people that had it to make this happen, to make this work. And I think we all can say, from the social injustice conversations, the voter suppression, police brutality, have this platform and have our players be able to unite like that. It's something that you will miss. You will think back on it. And I think one of the biggest things, not only besides the social injustice and all the things I mentioned, we had 0 positive tests. We had 0 positive tests for as long as we were here. 90-some days, 95 days maybe myself. I had a little calendar I was checking off. But on a serious note, no positive tests. That's a success for everybody that was involved.
Okay, Copland.
LeBron, what about this partnership that you have with Anthony makes it particularly special to you?
I can't really explain it. There's just certain things you just know. In any type of relationship, you kind of just feel, you just know that vibe. You have that respect. You have that drive, and sometimes you can't explain what links you with somebody, and it's that organic. And sometimes you don't even try to explain. Sometimes you guys ask me about my relationship with AD. The first thing I think about is respect, the no ego, the challenging each other. And we want each other to be better than actually ourselves. Like, I want AD to be better than me. AD want me to be better.